to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Starlight. Let's begin. Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let us begin. Across the length and breadth of Ambazonia, the story remains the same. A nation under siege, a people abandoned by an occupying regime, yet rising daily with unshaken resolve. From Bamenda to Victoria, the headlines may vary, but the core remains unchanged. Systemic sabotage, chronic neglect, and a deliberate strategy to keep southern Cameroon in ruins, while its resources are plundered and its people left to perish or survive on their own terms. Farmers till the land with hope, but no support. Cities burn, but no help comes. Roads remain death traps, youths unemployed, and even the few promises tossed to Ambazonia, like the ghost of a gas plant or a collapsed rice sector, evaporate the moment the cameras leave. We are witnessing not failed governance, but colonial cruelty repackaged in the language of statehood. And yet, in the face of fire, hunger, poverty, and propaganda, Ambazonians remain unshaken. Ambazonia continues to build, resist, and expose, not because it is given space to thrive, but because it has refused to die quietly. So as we bring you stories from Bamenda, Victoria, and the heart of Ambazonia, we see the struggling agricultural sector. We bring you the stories, not to do so with despair, but with hope. For how much longer can a regime deny a people everything and still pretend to rule them? And how long will the world keep watching, pretending not to see that Amazonia is no longer asking for freedom, but taking it one truth at a time? Well, this is Undaunted. Welcome to tonight's broadcast. Let's have the prime headlines usher us into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. And these are the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. We see another colonial sham as Bamenda gas plant exposes the exploitative lie of Cameroon's occupation. Starved and sabotaged, how the colonial regime is crippling Ambazonia rice farmers amid rising demand. And Victoria has been rocked by consecutive fire outbreaks amidst infrastructure challenges. And on the news around Africa, we see Uganda's President Mbeseha seeking seventh term in 2026 elections, confirms ruling party. Across the globe, Trump scrambles to broker peace deal after Iranian missile strikes at the United States base in Qatar. Let's get the news in full details. The so-called Bamenda gas plant, inaugurated by the colonial regime on May 9, 2025, was hailed as a step towards development. But just like every other facade project in southern Cameroon, it has proven to be nothing more than a propaganda stunt. No cheaper gas, no jobs, no development, only silence, excuses, and the deepening of a crisis the people never asked for. The truth is clear to every Ambazonian. The land of Ambazonia is not La République's to govern, and their neglect is no accident. It is a calculated strategy: exploit the land, abandon the people, then blame technical delays. From the moment of its announcement, the Bamenda gas plant was sold as a lifeline, a promise to reduce gas prices to 6,500 francs CFA and create up to 1,000 jobs in a city battered by occupation and war. But like every other promise made by Yaoundé's colonial regime, it was only intended to be fulfilled after the promise leaves the cameras. Months later, the people of Bamenda are still paying 8,000 francs CFA and above for gas, while jobless youths still roam the streets disillusioned. Now, this isn't failure. It is a design. For decades, the regime has paraded around southern Cameroon with glossy announcements, emergency plans, and development projects, and integration policies, all aimed at maintaining the illusion that Ambazonia is part of La République du Cameroon. But the reality on the ground tells a different story. No roads, no schools, no hospitals with basic supplies, and now no gas, despite a gas plant standing right in the faces of every Ambazonian. What kind of government builds a gas plant, announces job opportunities, and then leaves the people hanging without answers or accountability? Well, only an occupying regime pretending to be legitimate could do that. While Amazonian forests are looted, Amazonians' natural resources exploited, and the peoples of Ambazonia killed or displaced, La République continues to make a mockery of international law by holding on to a nation it has no lawful claim to. This gas plant is just another layer in that mockery. This is not governance, but occupation. The people of Ambazonia do not need another failed project or hollow promise. They need liberation. They need the freedom to manage their own resources, build their own institutions, and hold their own leaders accountable, not colonial agents imposed from across the Mungo. Until then, Ambazonia can only call on the international community to stop applauding these symbolic gestures and start recognizing the truth that Ambazonia is a nation under siege, and the so-called development under occupation is nothing but a smokescreen to distract from systemic looting and state-backed suppression. Now, the Bamenda gas plant may have been built with Ambazonian soil, but it stands as yet another monument to the failure, the fraud, and the fiction of La République's claim over Ambazonia. We have in the studio with us Barrister Mbeseha. Good evening, Barrister.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. So we see today's report. This promise that has been made months ago, long ago, is yet to be fulfilled. What is even happening is the prices of gas soaring up. As of the last time, it was 8,000, but right now it is 8,500. And in the coming days, I don't think anybody in Bamenda will be shocked to hear it going up to 9,000 and even possibly more. And this is the reality that Ambazonians face. In this case, people in Bamenda. Would like to get your thoughts with this regard.
Well, I don't think that the gas plant issue has been there for a while. It is quite a short thing. It's been there for the past 3 or 4 months, I think, not even after 4 months. But it did not start with Bamenda. It started with a gas plant in Kumba, somewhere near Barumbe Lake. Then less than a month after that, they moved it to Bamenda. Not move it, they created one in Bamenda. And I think I had the opportunity to say then, as I'm saying now, that it was nothing but a political campaign issue. I asked the question, why was it so important to have a gas plant, for example, in Kumba? How many do they have in Kongsamba, which is less than 70 kilometers away? Why was it so necessary to create a gas plant in Bamenda? How many do they have in Bunda, which matters for them more than Bamenda? And so it is a ploy to deceive the people. They will always do this during campaigns. Is there any problem with lying during campaign? No, that's part of the game of politics. What is the problem that we have with it? The problem we have with it is that we have our own brothers and sisters who are lying in it, who line up to execute these lies, to deceive the population. You find somebody in that picture I showed there, carrying the flag, claiming to be maybe a mayor. They will import the elites from Yaoundé, be it to Kumba or to Bamenda. Call them ministers, directors, or whoever has been having pay from the CPDM to come and launch their campaign with something they call a gas plant. The gas plant that the Bamenda people did not ask. The gas plant that Kumba people did not ask. Why do we need a gas plant for? Which is even a lie in a way. And so it is just one of the many things that they do at this time of campaign. And surprisingly, our own people who are supposed to be educated follow them sheepishly or very, very deliberately to deceive their own population. How often have we seen in the past few weeks, months, of some caterpillar bulldozers running through some places in Bangam and claiming to begin to dig a road to Minam, or some villages there, pretending to be bridges that have been there for the past 70 years, nobody has ever built. And you find out these things are left from Yaoundé. The launching of the gas plant, the dedication is from Yaoundé. The inauguration of road construction is all from Yaoundé. Led by who? Led by our own people who are supposed to be educated. Someday we don't call names. But what I saw was going on in Bangam, for example. I saw this thing being championed by a certain Professor Ngole. He's a professor by rank. He's a well-educated gentleman. But again, he put the color of his professorship to what he does. He's a principal of a school, the director of a school. What school is he directing? He's directing a CPDM school in Yaoundé. I mean, other than China, I don't see any country that forms that creates party schools and then puts you there and use you to deceive your people. They're Bongoles, they're Tanganjis, the Diongutes. They come from somewhere. Isn't that shameful, for example, that the Diongute will not say, rather than take that money, if you have any money, to be a gas plant in Kumba, why not use that money to dig a road to Kondutiti? Isn't that safer for somebody if you had any sense in their head? To say instead of putting a gas plant in Bamenda, if there's any money, take that money and go and feed the sub guy here, where everybody is passing there. They will not do this because they know that it's all political deceit. It is election campaign, which we as Ambazonians have said don't concern us. The CPDM is dying, and we shall be the most stupid people. We shall be the most stupid people to be able to fly that accompanies a coffin into the grave. And so those things are just political manipulations. Again, but the sad thing is they are accompanied by our own people. When did the Bamenda man or woman not eat in their house because there was no gas? They can use firewood. They have never asked for a gas station there, a gas filling station there. That has never been their priority. Neither has that been the priority of people in Kumba, or anywhere else. If it is political demands, they have demanded many more different things. They demand hospitals, good hospitals. They demand roads on which you can take your child or your baby or your husband or your wife and rush to the hospital for treatment. Not gas filling plants. That's a commercial business. Whoever wants to come and sell his or her gas in Kumba or in Bamenda is free to do so. It's like three people in Bamenda to come and celebrate the plantation of an antenna, where somebody will say airspace, where they will say SIM cards. Can't put it there. If people buy like your product, they'll buy it. It should not be a product. Since when did government get involved in manufacturing gas to sell to people? What is that for? If I'm capable to supply gas in Bamenda, in Kumba, in Mamfe, wherever, it's my private business. That should not be the responsibility of the government ministers, of the parliamentarians. Government is not there to retail gas. Government is not there to retail books. They are there to make policy that you can get gas. They say you are capable to produce gas, you're from China, you're from Japan, wherever you come from. These are the guidelines. And so the whole ploy is theft. It is political deceit. But our greatest error, our greatest sadness, is that they get our own children, our own mothers, our own fathers to buy into this type of electoral fraud. Criminal schemes actually meant to deceive the people. Over to you.
Mbeseha, as bitter as that truth is, it is what is happening in Ambazonia when it comes to La Republique's involvement with our infrastructure. Today's reports are focused on all of the infrastructural mishaps that has happened in Ambazonia due to La Republique's negligence. And we see again in similar light the midland and savanna zones of the sovereign Federal Republic of Ambazonia, which holds immense agricultural potential. Across all 7 counties, rice cultivation has long served as a lifeline, feeding families, driving local economies, and sustaining generations of Ambazonian farmers. But despite the sector's potential and the soaring demand for rice across the Amazonia, across the Cameroons, local production continues to fall dangerously short. The reason is no mystery at all. It lies in the hands of a colonial administration that neither serves nor sees the Amazonian people, even with the great potential in her fertile soils. Year after year, rice farmers in southern Cameroon do the work, tilling over 10,000 hectares of fertile land, producing up to 30,000 tons annually under the most hostile and neglected conditions. But without the tools, infrastructure, or support systems enjoyed by their counterparts in La Republique, the labor is deliberately stifled. This is not an accidental oversight. Again, it is the modus operandi of an occupying regime that exploits without investing, drains without nurturing, and governs with utter disregard for the lives of the very people whose resources it plunders. Farmers are forced to survive on scraps, buying overpriced seeds and fertilizers without subsidy, navigating crumbling, impassable roads that leaves their harvest to rot in the farms, and struggling to reach markets that are neither organized nor accessible. In times of need, they find no credit facilities, no agricultural extension officers, and no strategic investment from the regime in Yaoundé. What they receive instead is silence and the occasional PR stunt, empty of substance. Now, this is the reality of rice production under colonialism, a broken system where the people of Ambazonia feed the land but are themselves starved of the means to thrive. While La République du Cameroon champions itself as a union of equals, its policies in Ambazonia tells a different truth. A truth of systemic marginalization, selective underdevelopment, and blatant sabotage. Yet the international community still applauds the same colonial state that stands idly by, while Ambazonian farmers drown in hardship. No government with genuine intentions would watch an entire region's agricultural lifeline collapse while doing nothing. The message is clear that Ambazonians' prosperity is not part of the colonial script until the chains of occupation are broken and governance is returned to the hands of Ambazonians themselves. Development, sadly, will remain a mirage, and Ambazonian farmers will continue to pay the price for a union that they never consented to. The fertile grounds in Ambazonia can feed nations. The hands in Ambazonia are capable, but until Ambazonia is free, The fields will remain fertile, but at the feet of those who have no right to rule her, nor ability to lead her to prosperity. So Barrister Mbeseha, in another case of infrastructural negligence on the part of La République, holding Ambazonia under siege. We see this is affecting not just the people now, it is affecting the people when it comes to what they need on a daily basis, food. It is causing starvation because farmers are now left to struggle twice and gain even less than they should when everything should be set in place. With regards to this, we'd like to get your thoughts.
Well, I will just add this. What you see going on there in terms of that rice thing, which is smaller than bigger than other issues, it's not neglect. No, it's not neglect. I would describe it as criminal abandonment. Neglect means something you just ignore. No, it is calculated abandonment of a people, calculated abandonment of a sector, complete abandonment of a system. And so you find rice, that more goes into something they call rice. The rice you eat in the market that you buy, it's not just the rice. Before the rice gets to the market, many things are put into it that benefit the people. The farmer who grows that rice may never even eat the rice much. But because they have to transport the rice from Dop to Yaoundé, from Dop to Buya, from Dop to Nkambe, wherever it is, they will need roads. Because if you produce all the tons of rice there, which is just for your own consumption, you'll not get money. And so for it to be productive, you need roads to carry it to somewhere where you will sell and get some money out of it. I say it is an abandonment criminally orchestrated. Why? Because Ndop rice did not just exist. Ndop rice started as part of the West Cameroon Development Authority, call it agency, WADA. So that is what it was. It was something under the West Cameroon or Southern Cameroon government, properly planned in advance. And talking about rice, I've just said in the last segment that this is a crumbling regime that wants us to behave like the fly, the stupid fly, that follows the coffin to the grave. The regime is failing. The regime has failed. Talk about rice. You see, the rice is in Ndop. But that is not the only rice. They had the whole population of the north. Yagua in particular went there. That's something they call Simri. These were rice plantations. When I went there in 1978, we flew in helicopters owned by the company that was doing the rice there. Where's the rice from there? In the 70 and 78, there was rice in Plain Dimbo, next to Fale Zechang. Where are those rice plantations? They are totally abandoned. They pass out the land maybe and give it to their brothers or sisters to do what they like with it. And what are they doing? They are not even able to import rice and pay. They are unable to import rice and pay. They beg foreign nations to give them rice. I saw in a news item just as late as yesterday evening, where India has given them rice, several tons of rice shipped to them. And they're not even ashamed to travel to Douala and receive it. Government ministers going to receive rice sent to them as free rice. Their ministers go to do it. And they have been debating, what do we do with this rice? We should distribute it to everybody as a presidential gift. Distribute rice as presidential gift? What's the difference? Rice is like bread. It's campaign strategy. What does it cost the Indian government to do that? Zero. Provided they will have some market there. They do that for you. And so, in an attempt to punish Ambazonians, they punished the Ndop people who grow the rice. And again, there's much that go into rice. Under the West Cameroon government, we grew not rice, we grew other things that we consumed. But we also contemplated that what we could not consume locally will be sold out to somebody who will need it. And to do that, Southern Cameroon government created the National Produce Marketing Board, Produce Marketing Board, to market produce that we have produced from our farms. To market it where? To market it to foreign markets. Just like the Indians are sending them rice. We created this thing. It was the most powerful trade organization that we had. Behind the marketing board were national cooperatives. The people in DOP would have an INDOF rice cooperative, which will bargain the price of their rice, which rice will be shipped abroad, and they get a fair price for them. We sold things. We grew tea and we shipped it abroad. We grew coffee. We grew cocoa and all this things that I can talk about. And so these people criminally abandoned them, tactically to punish Ambazonians, but politically also to hurt themselves, because they don't even have to hurt themselves to eat. And so that is where we are. That man, at the very least, that person, you can grow your own rice and eat in your house. Better days ahead. Because what is the sense in going to beg rice from India, where rice is being stockpiled in Dove? Is it that the people cannot eat the rice? Or just because it's not theirs? What's the essence in closing the rice industry in the north, the rice industry in Plain Bowl, and then begging rice from China, begging rice from India, begging rice from everywhere to use as presidential gifts? It's like they beg flour, ordinary flour and wheat from other countries to make bread and sell and give it to people as campaign strategy. Remember Ukraine? They complained that the bread is expensive because they no longer have flour from Ukraine. What is flour? You know, wheat that can be grown anywhere. It's just wheat. What is sardine? It's just fish. This thing can be farmed in Limbe. It can be fished from the ocean there, and then they go and buy tons upon tons of sardines, buy tons upon tons of wheat, make bread, give it out as presidential gifts for the political campaigns. We say, on behalf of all Ambazonians, on behalf of the people in particular, enough is enough. That's why we have to vomit out this nonsense. We did not ask for independence to become international beggars. We did not fight for independence to become international bootlickers. And so they can remain there if they so wish. But we are gone and we're not returning. They will be surprised at what Ambazonia will be. They will see the difference between what they do, how they have criminally raped us, how they have criminally gotten everything that they could get out of us, and politically abandoned us. Again, back to the whole thing, rice, punishment to us. Attempt to plant gas station, whatever gas refilling station in Bamenda or Kumba, all political fraud. And so they should be vomited out, along with the people who come to promote these things, who claim to be also Ambazonians, who claim to be also Anglophones. Let's just call them like that. And so these are criminals who deserve punishment, not praises. And so that's what it is. Even the Bamenda man, even the Ndop man who grows the rice, even if you have to go and sell it in Kumba, there's no road to take the rice to Kumba. there's no road to take the rice to whom? And so what punishment is this? Rather than progress, we are degenerating into financial poverty, into intellectual unfit. That you don't see what we can ever say has come out of this so-called 65 years of so-called unity. It did not exist. We did not sign up to this. We signed up for independence. The simple word independence means that you have to survive on your own. You become independent. You grow your own crops. You look for your own market to sell. You make your own money. We did not sign up to independence. Call it independence by joining to become international beggars, to become bootlickers. And so that should be the end of it. That's the reason why we fight. And I would tell people in love, and anywhere else in Ambazonia, that this is a reason why you should support this struggle. Because we've suffered more than enough. We're already old and we're dying. We don't want to leave this thing for our children to suffer more. The next generation must be free. Even if the freedom will depend upon our shedding blood, we are shedding the blood to rescue them from future bootlickers. Over to you.
Speaking of the sufferings in Ambazonia, indeed, Ambazonia has reached a point where everybody who wants a better future in the land should indeed support the struggle. We see another case of suffering and negligence by the colonial regime in the city of Victoria, which has been hit by 2 fire outbreaks in just 24 hours. This has brought into focus the persistent dangers residents face. This incident, unfolding against the backdrop of the ongoing war and long-standing infrastructure issues, highlights the daily struggles of a population that is also familiar with such reoccurring disasters. Now, just 2 days ago, the coastal town of Victoria in the Atlantic zone of Fako was hit by a double blow, with 2 separate fire outbreaks reported within its municipal boundaries. Both incidents, fortunately, resulted in no human casualties, fortunately. But then the material damage left several individuals and a local business counting their losses. The first fire was reported on Sunday evening, June 22nd, 2025 at the Central Pole in the Towe neighborhood. Accounts from those affected indicate an electrical fault as the cause, which rapidly engulfed several plank houses, temporarily displacing some families. Swift actions helped contain the flames, preventing further spread to nearby structures. Now, the second incident followed closely, occurring the next day, yesterday, Monday, June 23rd, 2025, at the Casvita factory located opposite Savoy Palms. Here, an electrical malfunction within a machine triggered the blaze. Now, these recent fires in Victoria are only an illustration of a recurring pattern across all zones of Ambazonia, where such incidents have become an unfortunate norm. The underlying war has seen years of conflict and instability, often leading to a breakdown in essential services and a lack of governance, investment in critical infrastructure due to the siege that Ambazonia is going through. Now, the neglect directly impacts the safety and well-being of citizens who are left to bear the brunt of inadequate urban planning, unreliable power supply, and unresponsive emergency services. Access to both fire sites in Victoria was reportedly hampered due to the poor road conditions exacerbated by recent heavy rains and, of course, negligence of the colonial regime. This challenge in reaching incident locations is a familiar narrative in these areas, where road networks are often in disrepair. The fire outbreak in Victoria are more than isolated accidents. They are symptoms of a decaying system sustained by colonial abandonment. In a city once revered as a jewel of the Atlantic coast, families now watch their homes and livelihoods go up in flames, while the occupying regime remains unmoved. The repeated failure to invest in infrastructure, respond to emergencies, or prevent these disasters from reoccurring is not just incompetence. It is only evidence of a government that governs only in name and not in duty. Well, as Ambazonians continue to survive war, systemic neglect, and the daily hazards of life under occupation, the cries from Victoria serves as yet another reminder. Until the land of Ambazonia is governed by those who value and protect their own people, safety, sadly, would have to remain uncertain, and disasters would sadly continue to strike not just with fires, but with silence and indifference from those responsible. Barrister Mbeseha, today we're bringing cases of negligence that has happened in only recent days. In the last 2 days, we've seen 2 to 3 days, we've seen these different events play out, and fire incidents have been on the rise in recent times. We've brought several of those cases to the newsroom where you dissected as well, and this is another case. Poor roads, fire accidents, overcharged electricity. These are the crises that Amazonians get to face due to the colonial negligence in this case. Barrister Mbeseha, over to you.
Yes, again, the colonial negligence, or rather I didn't add the colonial abandonment. Because now we're talking about Victoria, talking about fire there. How much does it cost to get a fire station? Not much money. But there's a fire station, there's supposed to be one, that is in Sonara. Does Victoria, for example, need 2 fire or 3 fire stations? No. Victoria is such a very small place physically, it's not a big town. And so fighting machines are not things that you use and drive like cars down the street. If you'll be very unlucky to fight 3 fires in a town in a year. So these things are parked there. But do they even have them? They don't. Even if they had them, would they prevent these fires? No, they will not. Why? Because those fires are predictable, they are foreseeable. And you try to prevent them in advance. By doing what? During the construction of any city, town planning is absolutely important. In West Cameroon, for example, if you wanted to build a house in Bamenda, you took it to the health, you took it to this different department, town planning, and they signed your plan. It was not just because you're putting signatures, they verified, for example, if your house was at least a meter away from the other house. The zone data for which your house should be separated from the other house by some distance is to prevent that fire. If fire breaks out, will not just burn your own house. So this is done well in advance. Again, you see that truck moving there. Can the truck, even if there are 20 firefighting trucks in Limbe, how would they get there? That's the road. How would they get there? There is total lack of town planning. The truck will not fly. It has to move on the road. And when you construct a town, you have this in the town planning process. Was there any time, is that been no, absolutely nothing there like that. It is not enough that the content of that truck is purely water. And I remember in Bamenda not long ago, the firefighting truck came there. For a few seconds, the water was finished. They had no water. What would they do? They would take 2 hours to go down to river, whatever thing is found in Bamenda there, take another 30 minutes or 1 hour to pump water from the river into the truck. Is the fire going to be waiting for you to go and pump water and come and pump them out? They will not wait for you. Also, where I say these things are predictable. In a regular town, let us take the West where we are. When you drive on the road, you see these places put there fire hydrant. Big places where you can open and water will flow out at the speed of 50 miles an hour. And they will feed that fire truck. And they will feed the fire thing that they will blow out. You can pump 300-400 meters away. Is there any fire hydrant in Bamenda, in Kumba, anywhere in Limbe? No. So how do you expect these things even to work, even though we're there? They cannot work. The cause of fire, this one, the claim was electrical failure. Why? Do they control the quality of the thing that you use to light your houses? Nobody controls it. Nobody can go down the cartier, pick in the cables and hang on the wall, and then they will spark fire and everything will be burnt. Why are they not doing this? They have a ministry of town planning, where there's a minister there with even a vice. They have even a delegation everywhere. What are they doing? They are looking for places to buy cars, import foreign cars, buy foreign material to build their own houses in Cameroon. They will not go down to buy the poor quality material down the market. No. Fire is only one. Fires and floods are predictable. Remember just about 2-3 weeks ago, they were in Devil, Victoria, trying to receive Madame Nalova, who will be appointed into the central committee of their party. What happened? Rain fell. And the flood took over the whole nonsense. And they ran themselves. Is it not predictable? Was it not foreseeable that there will be a flood in Limbe? If rain falls. Limbe has been there forever. This low line is around the ocean. What provision was put there? Nothing. But you find people parading the town. Whole city mayor, I don't know what city they're running, district, whatever thing they have there. They have call it Bamenda 1, Bamenda 2, Bamenda 10. Call it Limbe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why all these things? The whole idea is to get money into their pockets. Because behind every Bamenda 1, every Bamenda 2, every Limbe 3, is headed by somebody who has a presidential decree, who calls himself chef de terre. What terre is he having over if you cannot control where the pipelines pass? He's controlling nothing. But he has a presidential decree and giving a car that might never reach his door. He parks it somewhere. He walks through the empty street on foot to go and enter his limousine and be the chef de terre. If there's a mayor there, he controls the mayor. If the so-called they call city council or whatever thing, regional council, they are controlled by a governor, appointed by presidential decree. How do you expect the town to grow? What is the interest of a governor? Call him Bamenda. In where fire is burning in Bamenda or Kumba or somewhere. He has no interest there because the next day he will seek transfer and go to Douala, he will seek transfer and go somewhere else, or he will make a minister in here one day. Nobody is holding him accountable. And somebody is there still parading himself as the mayor of the town, who is responsible for putting out these fires, who is responsible for controlling these floods, who is responsible for the town planning, effectively telling you that your house should not be put here because it's put on the wrong spot. It is blocking the flow of water. They will not do it, and then they want us to follow them to their graves of a nothingness. And so, again, this is one of the reasons why we fight. These people, they are a dead government. They have been dead for so many years. In fact, they have not even existed, practically speaking. The sad story between this so-called union that has not worked is so sad, it's so regrettable to anybody who knew the history of Southern Cameroon, who knew what we were, and then what we are today. In terms of your human life, somebody has taken years to put a plank house. It is consumed by fire, whose fire he is not responsible for controlling. Somebody has taken years to build a farm. It is swept away by the flood, which flood is not responsible for controlling. Somebody has taken years to plant corn, to plant maize. Cows come and consume it. We know reaction from whatever called chef de terre or the government. What would this poor man do when cows stray into his farm? He's so angry he can only kill one cow in anger, but there are 300 other cows that will continue to eat the corn. And so we are falling from heaven to the deepest pit of hell. This should never have happened to us, but it has happened to us. Whoever caused this to happen to us is not the issue now. Whether it was well intentioned or badly intentioned, that's not the issue. The issue is that having discovered where we are, we have to get out of it. We have to fight our way out and say, you who helped us get into this thing, we forgive you. We cannot go back to the past. But we're getting out of it. Because the Victoria of tomorrow, Victoria is a very important place. It's a shipping place. At the very least, that's one of the places that you have the best that you can find. We were talking about a few days ago, yesterday I think, talking about insecurity in Bamenda. Bullets flying left and right. Yes. Even if they had the best policemen there, and you're shot somewhere in Cow Street, how would the policeman even get there to investigate? There's no road. You think that an armed robber sitting in Cow Street will wait for you to come and catch him? You walk away into the street and walk away. This is pure security, just as simple as that. You don't make those rules because you like the people. You make those rules because they will also facilitate their job as government. And so, again, we are falling from heaven into the deepest pit of hell. But going forward, we have set the escape. That's the reason why we fight. We must get out. We're not anymore for our great-grandchildren to suffer the pains. And I take it from late Ben Muna, said in 2017, fight for this thing. Fight and fight. Your parents who are dead will not come back to fight for you. We are dying, he said. I say I'm 77. Don't expect me to fight for you. Fight now. Don't wait until you turn 77 like me, Bamenda said. And so our children should see this thing. We are crying here. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about them. And I think they've gotten it right. Because I said yesterday, most of the people fighting now, actively fighting, were not born in 1960. They didn't see these glorious days I'm talking about. They probably have heard about them. But they have awakened to it. They are awakened to it in plain daylight. They can see what's happening somewhere else. They can see Mr. Paul Biya running from Yaoundé, taking flights for years, for weeks, to go and treat himself in Switzerland. Call it a Swiss hospital. How big is Switzerland? Switzerland doesn't even have the size of Cameroon. They don't have the population of Cameroon. But they have the hospitals that our presidents can fly into themselves there. And so on and so forth. The weeping is grave. And so, all what I can say is, what's happening in Victoria in terms of fire, we'll repeat the same in Kumba. We'll repeat the same in Cambe. We'll repeat the same in Mafia. Mafia started his own share of the fires. We'll repeat the same anywhere in Ambazonian. What we see in Dub, over the rice, it will repeat itself anywhere in Ambazonian. And so, the causes are multiple. The pains are deep. And so, we can only appeal to our people. With or without support, let's get ourselves out of this mess, so that our future generations will not go through this hell. There's only one hell, but we don't need to live another hell on earth. To die and go to another one that we don't see. And so that is what I have for that. And thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity.
It is a pleasure, Barrister Mbeseha. All you have is actually well said. And I believe Ambazonians on the home front and in the diaspora are keen to your wise words. Once again, it's a pleasure having you here on Undaunted tonight. But this is what we'll call it a wrap for you, Barrister Mbeseha. Thank you once again.
For having me too.
All right, coming up next is news across the globe. News around Africa. On news around Africa, we see Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni seeking re-election for a 7th term in office. A senior official from the ruling National Resistance Movement, the NRM, has confirmed ending months of speculation about his political future. The announcement comes ahead of Uganda's general elections scheduled for January 2026, where voters will head to the polls to elect the president and members of parliament. While Museveni's bid was widely anticipated, this marks the first official confirmation from within the NRM party. President Museveni remains our sole and most capable candidate going into the 2026 elections, says the senior party official during a press briefing in Kampala. His leadership has brought stability, economic growth, and continuity, and the party unanimously supports his candidature. Museveni, who's 80, has been in power since 1986, making him one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Over the decades, he has consolidated his rule through a combination of political maneuvering, constitutional amendments, and broad control over state institutions. In 2005, Parliament removed presidential term limits, and in 2017, the age limit for presidential candidates was scrapped. Both changes widely seen as only enabling Museveni to extend his stay in power. Critics argue that Museveni's prolonged tenure has stifled democratic growth and marginalized political opposition. This is not about experience or leadership anymore. It is about power retention, said one opposition figure reacting to the announcement. Ugandans deserve a true democratic choice, not a recycling of the same leadership. Now, despite growing discontent among segments of the population, particularly the youths, Museveni and the NRM maintain a tight grip on political and security structures. His main challenger in the 2021 election, musician-turned-politician Robert Kyagulanyi, known as Bobby Wine, has yet to confirm whether he will run again, but has continued to rally support against what he calls an authoritarian regime. The 2026 election is expected to be a critical test of Ugandan's democratic institution and civic space, which have faced increasing pressure in recent years. International observers will be watching closely, especially in the lead-up to the vote, amid concerns over electoral transparency, political freedoms, and human rights. Museveni's campaign is expected to emphasize stability, national development projects, and regional influence, as the president seeks to secure another 5-year term in office. If successful, this would extend his rule to over 40 years in power. Still in Africa, at the opening of the 17th U.S.-Africa Business Summit, Angola President João Lourenço called for a fundamental shift in the United States-Africa relationship from traditional aid to strategic private investment. He urged the United States to engage with Africa through mutually beneficial business partnerships, arguing that the continent is ready to move beyond dependency on humanitarian assistance. Lourenço acknowledged that Africa still needs financial capital and expertise from the United States, but emphasized that these should come in the form of long-term investments. His message highlighted Africa's readiness to be treated as an equal economic partner, with its growing markets, abundant resources, and youthful population serving as strong foundations for cooperations. His remarks echoed a broader sentiment amongst African leaders attending the summit, who are increasingly aware that the United States' interest in the continent appears to be waning, especially in the area of aid, with the global geopolitical focus shifting elsewhere. Many African nations are now prioritizing private sector engagement and sustainable economic growth through partnership. Now, the United States officials and business leaders present at the summit acknowledged this call for a new model of cooperation. However, questions remain about whether Washington will respond with meaningful investment. For African leaders, the message was clear. The continent is no longer looking for handouts, but for fair and forward-looking economic collaborations. Now, away from Africa, let's take a look at what's happening around the rest of the globe. On the global scene, in the chaotic hours following Iran's unprecedented missile strike on a U.S. military base in Qatar, former President Donald Trump launched a high-stakes diplomatic effort aimed at de-escalating a rapidly intensifying conflict between Iran and Israel. The attack, the most direct Iranian strike on the United States' interest in the Gulf in over a decade, immediately triggered alarm in Washington, Tel Aviv, and across global capitals, igniting fears of a broader regional war. According to a senior White House official, Trump, flanked by his most trusted national security advisors, sprang into action in a bid to contain the fallout and prevent further bloodshed. In a rare display of personal diplomacy, Trump established direct lines of communication with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, urging restraint while offering the United States support for Israel's security. Meanwhile, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, and Special Mid-East Envoy Steve Witkoff coordinated a parallel push to open channel with Tehran. These efforts reportedly included both direct and back-channel communications aimed at persuading Iranian leadership to pull back from the brink of open war. Every minute counted, said the senior official, who requested anonymity to discuss sensitive diplomacy. The president believed that the window to prevent full-scale war was closing fast, and he wanted every diplomatic tool at his disposal deployed immediately. Now, the missile barrage, which struck the Al Udeid air base near Doha, caused limited casualties but marked a significant escalation in hostilities. It came amid soaring tensions following a series of covert Israeli operations inside Iran, including a drone strike last week that reportedly killed a senior Revolutionary Guard commander. Now, while the Biden administration had condemned Iran's actions and called for calm, Trump, who is running, took the extraordinary step of engaging directly with foreign leaders, asserting himself as a statesman capable of diffusing global crisis. Now, it was a moment that called for leadership, said a source close to the Trump team. President Trump believes peace is possible, but only if all sides step back from the edge. In Israel, Netanyahu confirmed in a brief statement that he had spoken with Trump, but offered no further details. Israel reserves the right to define and defend itself, he said. We will act to protect our people. Iranian officials have yet to publicly acknowledge contact with the Trump team, but a diplomat in the region suggested what Iranian intermediaries in Oman and Iraq may have facilitated, saying they may have facilitated informal talks. Now, as of this morning, Tuesday morning, no new strikes had been reported, and there were signs of a temporary cooling of tensions. But regional analysts warned that the situation remains fluid and dangerous. This is a very precarious moment, said Dr. Lina Khatib, director of the Middle East Institute at King's College London, saying even if there is a pause in direct hostilities, the underlying dynamics that led to this crisis, the shadow war between Israel and Iran, the fragmented United States role in the region, and the increasingly volatile Gulf remains unresolved. But still, Trump's rapid response and back-channel diplomacy have drawn cautious praise from some foreign policy experts. He knows how to get people on the phone, said former United States Ambassador Ryan Croker. In moments like these, sometimes that kind of personal diplomacy can break through. Whether Trump's gambit succeeds in bringing the parties to the negotiating table or merely buys time before the next confrontation, it remains to be seen. But then, in a region long accustomed to cycles of violence, even in a temporary ceasefire, it could represent a crucial, if fragile, victory for diplomacy to take place. But then with that, on the end of the Iran and Israel war for today, we'll come to the close of Undaunted. But before we leave, let's take a look at the recap of our major highlights. On Undaunted tonight, we brought to you another colonial sham, seeing Bamenda gas plan, which exposes the exploitative lie of La Republique's occupation, the starved and sabotage, how the colonial regime is crippling Ambazonian rice farmers amid rising demand of rice. Victoria rocked by consecutive fire outbreaks amidst infrastructure challenges. And in the news around Africa, we see Uganda's President Museveni seeking seventh term in 2026 elections, which confirm the ruling party. And across the globe, Trump scrambles to broker peace deal after Iranian missile strikes on U.S. base in Qatar. And that was it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted, we say thank you for tuning in. We'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night.